Our lead story, the Prime Minister's power-packed visit to France. Well, key deals on defence cooperation and in fact an agreement on visas was also inked. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said we see France as a natural partner. President Emmanuel Macron, on the other hand, said we've decided to work together in many sectors. Now, what are really the deals that both the countries looked at? Well, defence cooperation was clearly the focus. Also, civil nuclear cooperation, small nuclear modular reactors were also discussed. On the sidelines, a new Indian consulate is also likely to come up in Marseille. And a long-term visa for Indian students studying in France was also discussed. The Indo-Pacific roadmap with Indo-French bilateral relations at the core was the focus at the Prime Minister's visit. And also very interestingly, France is likely to use India's UPI. Also, civil aviation cooperation and cooperation in the area of space were also discussed.
इस यात्रा में हम फ्रांस को एक नेचुरल पार्टनर के रूप में देखते हैं। 2 दिनों में हमें आपसी सहयोग के सभी क्षेत्रों पर विस्तार से बात करने का अवसर मिल रहा है। आर्थिक संबंधों को और सुदृढ़ करना हमारी साझा प्राथमिकता है। रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सेमीकंडक्टर्स, साइबर, डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे अनेक क्षेत्रों में सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए हम नए इनिशिएटिव्स की पहचान कर रहे हैं। भारत के यूपीआई यानी यूनिफाइड पेमेंट्स इंटरफेस को फ्रांस में लॉन्च करने पर समझौता हुआ है।
एक शतक पहले 1916 में पेरिस के बीच में ही भारत के सैनिक दस्ते हमारे सैनिकों के साथ आगे चले थे और वो हमारे साथ ट्रेंचों में, खाइयों में और विश्व युद्ध के सारे मोर्चों पर लड़े थे कंधे में लाकर। और बहुत ही गर्व हुआ आज पंजाब रेजिमेंट को यहाँ पर देखकर पेरिस के दिल में।
And well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Emmanuel Macron were at the India-France CEOs Forum. They met the top CEOs. In fact, there the Prime Minister reiterated that India and France will continue to cooperate on various issues and that will also look at new ways of co-development and cooperation.
आपसी विश्वास और करीबी साझेदारी की इस शानदार यात्रा में आप जैसे बिजनेस लीडर्स का बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है। मैं चाहूंगा कि सभी साथी मिल करके हम दोनों देशों की जो यात्रा है उसको गति दें और अधिक सामर्थ्य दें और हम दोनों का आपको पूरा समर्थन रहेगा, ये मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं।
And well, the other big highlight of the Prime Minister's visit to France was the Bastille Day parade, where Sare Jahan Se Acha was playing and echoing at the Champs-Élysées. Take a look at this report.
Indian Army, Air Force and Navy soldiers marching down the Champs-Élysées, reviving an abiding link between India and France, an association that may be forgotten in India but never in this country. On Bastille Day, France's national day, India was the guest of honor with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the chief guest, as both nations celebrate 25 years of strategic ties. And our Air Force's Rafale fighters flew overhead. In the run-up to the much-awaited moment, the Josh was high.
As you can see, they are hard at it, getting ready, and it is quite a show over here. They are by far and away the most impressive of all the marching contingents that we've seen. We've got the Indian Air Force as well, who are equally impressive over there, but they are getting absolutely ready for what's going to be an absolutely fantastic parade.
अभी जो प्रैक्टिस के बाद हम मार्च के लिए तैयार है और मेरी रेजिमेंट बिल्कुल तैयार है मार्च करने के लिए और जोश पूरा हाई है.
At the end of the events, France's President Macron and Prime Minister Modi met the officers commanding the Indian marching contingent. France's National Day or Bastille Day occupies a special place in French consciousness. This day commemorates the storming of the Bastille prison in 1789 during the French Revolution. 74,000 Indian soldiers were killed in action in the First World War, many fighting in France and Western Europe. Indian soldiers returned to fight in the Second World War, a massive contribution against a global enemy, Nazi fascism.
The historic significance of Indian soldiers marching down the Champs-Élysées may be lost to many in India, but here in France, many of these soldiers and their regiments, they're all considered heroes. Indian soldiers fought and were killed in action in the First and Second World Wars over here in Western Europe. And to see Indian soldiers march down the Champs-Élysées, the same regiments which participated more than 100 years back, was indeed an incredible sight. With Pooja Arya, this is Vishnu Shop for NDTV.
And well, let's cut across live to where the Foreign Secretary is currently speaking.
If you look at the 2047 Horizon document, and where does that the references to defense cooperation and these...
We have a surprise for you. We're going to ask a bunch of you some special questions, and every correct answer is going to reveal what our surprise is.
In a more holistic and a comprehensive manner, rather than as a set of individual transactions. And why is that? And the reason for that is because the matrix of defense partnership is not defined by a single acquisition or a non-acquisition, single procurement or a single transaction. The nature of India-France strategic partnership, I should say, looks at all elements of our engagement. So the document, for example, I mean, if I was to really quote here, it talks of the two countries, India and France, committed to cooperating on, I'll just put quote unquote, co-development and co-production of advanced defense technologies, and you yourself referred including for the benefit of third countries. It also talks of India's intent to build its own defense industrial and technological base. This is a vision document which we're working on. But if you were to look at its underpinnings, the underpinnings and the specifics of our defense partnership, you will find that for the last large number of years, the two countries have been actually undertaking technology partnerships in the field of defense. It is perhaps a very natural media interest to focus on one or two items, but from our perspective, we look at our defense relationship in a very comprehensive manner, which looks at, if you want to really want me to really list out the ecosystem of defense engagement between the two countries, and I know there are a couple of you in the room who follow defense very closely, you will find an entire range of, full range actually, of military exercises between the armed forces. In terms of the military industrial cooperation, research, design, transfer of technology in some cases, co-production, co-manufacturing, increasingly something which we definitely would want to focus on in years ahead, supply chain integration in the manufacturing ecosystem in the field of defense between the two countries. I would even say technology value chain integrations going forward between the two countries. And all this, I would not go into details of, helicopter engines or aero engines or any other aspects, but you will find a lot of these captured in the larger rubric of advanced defense technologies. and we in India and Prime Minister is very clear that a lot of these things have to link into the priority of Atmanirbhar Bharat that we all believe in. So I would suggest, submit that we look at India-France security partnership from the rubric and from the frame of reference, which is comprehensive, which is strategic in nature, which looks ahead on what we can do in the entire ecosystem of defense and not just limit itself to one or two issues. With regard to the question, your second question, ma'am, on the Russia-Ukraine issue, the Honorable Prime Minister and the President, whenever they have met, even on previous occasions, have focused always on issues of regional and global development, and naturally, Russia-Ukraine conflict is a matter which has mostly been discussed between the two leaders whenever they've spoken. In today's discussions between the two leaders, what I would say is that, one, there is a very clear understanding and appreciation of each other's position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. You would all also know that my Prime Minister, Prime Minister Modi, has been perhaps the strongest advocate of resolving the Russia-Ukraine conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. If I understand and if I scan the global pronouncements on this subject, you will find that my Prime Minister is again perhaps the only leader who has openly said that this is not the era of war. Now, obviously, this points to a certain basic intent of our Prime Minister and of India, which is intent for peace. So when the two leaders meet, like they met earlier today and yesterday also, they discussed at length what the current status is of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But from our perspective, and I think this has been greatly appreciated by the French side also, they also discussed what the impact of this conflict is on the developing countries. The challenges, the exacerbating challenges of food security, the growing uncertainty that it creates for the energy security, rapid increase in fertilizer security challenges, which can translate into food security challenges of tomorrow, in that sense. So all these things came up for a comprehensive conversation between the two leaders, and they shared their perspective. And as I said, there is a very clear appreciation, understanding, and recognition of each other's position on where the conflict is right now, and what their perspective on that is. Siddhant, your question on the Indo-Pacific document, what are the convergences between the two countries? Look, it's an area where actually if you go back to, I think it was 2018, yeah. If you go back to 2018, India and France in 2018 came out with a vision document on cooperation in the principally focused in the Indian Ocean region. Again, a document which looks at the partnership in a very comprehensive way, not in a very segmented and a differentiated way in which you single out one or two elements to the exclusion of others. Not at all. Same is the case with the document on Indo-Pacific Roadmap. It looks at a full set of challenges that are there in the Indo-Pacific geography. Two, also assesses actually what India and France are already doing, particularly in the Indian Ocean region. Three, what more can they do to expand that cooperation and take it to the countries of the Indo-Pacific, including, in this case, you will find in the document some island countries in the Pacific are also listed. As you know, Prime Minister Modi was in Papua New Guinea not so long ago, just it was very recently. And the clear sense that we received during that summit meeting where Prime Minister Modi met with the 14 countries of the Pacific Island country was a very strong preference for development partnership with India.